Hey, peace and blessings to you. My name is Jerry B. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. Welcome to another exciting episode of the EntreMusician. You know, we did something last week that I had a lot of fun with, and that was going back into the archives of where we first began trying to do these podcasts and trying to figure out how to interview people. And go back and listen to last week's episode, because we resurrected from the archives a conversation we had with the great jazz pianist Fred Hughes. Well, I was thinking, as we're moving forward and we have a lot of great artists and EntreMusicians lined up for the end of the year, as we approach the end of the year, I should say, in this last quarter here, as well as for 2023, let's have some more fun and look back into the archives of what we've done before. And I don't think that this one ever reached our podcast audience. And this was a great conversation that we had. It was a two-part conversation, in fact, with George and Joff Hazelrigg, the Hazelrigg Brothers from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. And let me tell you, these brothers are some absolute geniuses of music, of taking pop standards and jazzing them out. I mean, it's just incredible musicianship, as well as the technology that they use. They actually build their own equipment in a lot of realms, and they'll talk about that in the conversation. So I know this is going back about 3 years, but you've never heard it before. It's new to you. This is a great conversation that we had with the Hazelrigg Brothers right here on the EntreMusician. You're going to absolutely love it. I'm talking today, and I'm excited to do so, to the wonderful Hazelrigg Brothers. I'm talking to Geoff and George, only I don't know which order they're sitting in, so they're going to have to introduce themselves.
What's up, Jerry?
What's up? So which Hazelrigg brother are you?
Well, you have to guess.
All right, I'm going to say you are probably Geoff.
No, I'm not. Actually, neither of us is Geoff.
Okay. Okay.
This is my Steinway here. So I'm George. It's Joff.
Joff.
Yeah.
So nobody's Geoff, is Joff. And I tried so hard with the enunciation. Okay, interview over. We got to scrap it and start. Well, it's great to have you guys on, man. It's been an interesting process. I believe I met you maybe over the radio a year ago on
yeah, probably a year ago. Yeah.
Trish Hennessy's podcast, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you very briefly what happened to me. I think Trish brought me on to the show because she thought maybe I would have some questions for you. At least that's the way it felt. And I didn't have any questions at all because I didn't know of your music. But here's what happened. She started playing track after track of your CD, Songs We Like, and I absolutely fell in love. I mean, I gotta tell you, I'm a huge fan of innovation. And you guys, your approach to the songs you selected, your approach to the recording, and from her talking to you, your approach to life, I was just absolutely intrigued. So thank you for really pouring into me, because I'm a huge fan of your music.
Well, it was good to meet you on that show. I'm glad it kept things rolling for us, and it's been great to get to know you a little bit over the last year or two, and your music as well, and all these great things that you do for the music community at large, and this vocal thing, which is
the vocal thing is going to hit up, man. January. I'm waiting for 2019. It's going to hit the streets, and we have some great endorsements coming up, so we're ready for that. Now, you guys are the definition of EntreMusicians too, because you have a company called Hazelrigg Industries.
Right.
Market and manufacturing high-end audio gear.
That's right.
Would you tell me a little bit about that?
Boy, it's a lot of work and a lot of headache, and you meet a lot of people.
don't make a lot of money.
Don't make much money.
Well, just like an entre musician, you know.
Yeah, no, you know, we're such maniacs about the sound that we capture, you know, like our instruments are everything. And then what we have to do is we have to record our instruments in a way that you can hear what we're hearing.
I see.
So it's a big process, the whole thing.
That's actually how we got into that. I mean, it's basically we wound up with an electronics company in search of a recorded sound that we could actually live with. You know, we'd play live and it would feel good and everybody would say, oh, this is great, and and we'd come back into the studio and put things down, and it just wasn't conveying what we wanted it to convey, and it was hard to pinpoint what that was. I mean, it was impossible to pinpoint what that was at the time, and we were just going through different setups and different gear and different techniques of how we're capturing this stuff, and I mean, this goes back even before the trio, because you know, we were record producers and trying to do stuff and on a shoestring budget, and that it'd have to be good enough to compete with major labels or, you know, bigger budget stuff, and it's like, I don't know, how do we do this? And so we're reinvesting half the money we make doing these jobs on gear and trying to figure it out. And Joff started building gear for us because it was a lot cheaper than going and buying it. And then he wound up getting a job with Doug Fern as an assembler. Just putting together these machines. Actually, is that plugged in? Can you grab that and put it in the shot? I'll show you one of these.
Yeah.
One of these machines here. But so, you know, we'd have like an API preamp, and then we'd sell the API preamp and have enough money to buy parts to build 2 more API preamps.
Wow.
And then we got into this stuff.
This is one of our biggest, most expensive products. It's a 4-channel microphone preamp.
Wow.
And it's got a lot of tubes on the inside and a lot of other fancy stuff on the inside.
Oh boy, I tell you what, my business partner Jerry Thompson would love to check that out, because he's a preamp and microphone freak.
Huh.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we have to have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
We should just mail you out a preamp, man.
Oh, come on with it. I'll give you the address.
You know, the caveat is, once you hear the stuff, you can't unhear it.
I hear you.
With it for life, and then you know, you've got divorce attorneys and, you know, bankruptcy lawyers and all this stuff. You know, that nobody wants that, man.
Right. Absolutely. Now, I think that your association with is it Blue Coast Records, Blue Coast Recordings, is because of their dedication to high-end audiophiles. Is that correct? That one of the reasons you're with them?
Yeah, I mean, Cookie Marenko is kind of a bit of a pioneer in that. She's not a bit of a pioneer. She is a pioneer in that field. And we met her a couple of years ago.
I think it was only last year at the NAMM show.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but you know, she's just as crazy about sound as we are. You know, and immediately it was like we had a connection with her over that. You know.
So she's big on the DSD format, direct stream digital. For consumers, that would mean SACD. And in our estimation, it is the best recording and audio dissemination format ever devised. I mean, to us, it sounds right. I mean, it sounds, probably get some audiophiles upset, but when you actually source it from a DSD recording and then play it back in DSD, I mean, it even beats out anything analog to us, even good records. Although we've heard some very high resolution vinyl cut from DSD Masters. A friend of ours, Jim Stern, from Earful,
Wow.
mastering in Arizona,
Phoenix.
is into doing this, and those recordings are absolutely phenomenal sounding coming off a record.
You know, people have no idea. Everybody listens to music off their iPhones or iPods, and we've been doing this for like what 15 years now of iPods, and that's what everyone has become accustomed to, and people have no idea what they're missing.
Sure.
There's just, they have no idea. You know, once you listen to this stuff, it's like once you hear it, you can't unhear it. It's it's an experience, you know.
No, I understand. I think 30 years ago, the big thing was DMP. If you can remember, digital music products, Flim and the BBs, and there were a lot of other esoteric bands that were on that label because of the DDD on the CD, and it just, you know, the dynamics and everything just kind of jumped out at you, and they were going direct to disc actually.
But
yeah, I remember GRP kind of took a step down from that, Dave Grusin and Larry Rosen. So, you know, I'm not into the technical aspects of it, but from a end user, yeah, I noticed the difference immediately.
Right.
So
I got to hang out with Dave Grusin when I was a teenager.
You used to hang out with Dave Grusin?
Well, I got to hang out with him for a week. Him and his brother Don.
Don, yeah,
pianist as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was at a conference for a week with my father when I was probably 17 or 18.
Well, that's what we want to get into. I want to get into your family structure because you guys are an anomaly to me, being that I'm just knowing you. And I told you I was working out at the gym to your music, which is like, oh, that's an oxymoron right there, but really good stuff. But Don Grusin, absolutely. I have Raven CD and the CD and just brilliant stuff. So I don't know, great minds think alike. But now your father, is he a musician?
Well, he plays a little bit, but he's well, I guess he's an aerospace engineer by training, and then he just retired a year ago from National Science Foundation after 35 years of giving away your tax money, out of which he funded programs that affect our lives right this moment, actually.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Now you guys are based in PA, so or from Doylestown, PA, but you mostly work in New Jersey, correct?
No. We live in Doylestown.
You live in Doylestown. Okay.
Yeah, we grew up in Princeton.
I see.
Yeah. So we operate out of here. Our shop is in town, and this is the studio here.
Yeah. Where does John sit? Does he give drum lessons? That guy is like excellent.
He does actually. He teaches in town.
Yeah,
I see the kid right over there.
That's where he sits.
Yeah.
When we record. So.
Yeah, you're actually seeing the entirety of the space that we use for capturing the trio.
Man, that's fantastic stuff, though. It really is, man. I recommend everybody to get songs that we like, which is, it just will turn you around. Your approach, as I talked about at the beginning, to choosing, Led Zeppelin and Sting and Jimi Hendrix. Here's a couple questions I want to ask. And first of all, I want to ask, who's the elder brother? You want me to guess on that too? I can't guess.
I am.
You're the older. Okay, so most of the selections of how you do things, is that, in that brother dynamic, do you agree mostly on the approach for the songs and the selections that you do either for recording or stage, or what's that process?
It's a long, do we agree? I think we hash a lot of it out playing it, so it's a long process to get to, like, for instance, what you hear on the CD, it's a long time of playing those songs and developing the arrangements and the parts and the flow and whatnot. And then we even play since putting the album out, we play some of those songs a little bit different now since then, because they've sort of evolved since. Yeah.
I would say that, well, most of the time when it starts, it generally starts with a joke or something, like somebody will be noodling around and the other one will say, wait, what is that?
Oh, that sounds like that song, or
or we'll,
or it reminds us of, you know, that another song, or hey, let's do such and such.
Right. Like so we play Black Magic Woman with the trio, and sometimes we'll end a set on it just because there's a big drum solo at the end, and John gets to do his thing, and we started to play that song because we were playing a completely different song. We were playing Synchronicity 1 by the Police,
right?
And we would get to the end of that, and I joked around, you know, with this kind of Zarathustra kind of ending thing to it, which either came out of that song, out of Black Magic Woman, or out of Carnival 9 by ELP. Either way, it's the same thing. And then we would go, we started tagging the end of Black Magic Woman, you know, the end out solo section on the end of that Police tune. And then one day it was just like, well, why don't we just play the Santana song? And there it was. So,
wow.
Other things, you know, I went to see Ian Anderson in concert, and the next day I was here working with Joff, and one of us hit that bass line. I think maybe you hit the bass line.
Yeah, maybe.
I was the one who went to the concert, and he was the one who hit the bass line. I said, wait a minute, what is that? I know that. Yeah, of course, I saw it last night.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, they come from different places, and sometimes there's songs that we pick because I like the lyrics.
Yeah.
Like we do Throw Out Your Gold Teeth too, you know, Steely Dan, and I always love the first verse of that, you know, because he's describing the Hells Angels.
Oh yeah. Donald Fagen is he's an anomaly too. So I see you guys migrate to, you know, musicians who have that innovative approach. It's not cookie cutter with you guys at all.
Right. Well, you know, it's hard to pick. There's a lot that has to be inherent in a song for it to work in the format. And it doesn't necessarily have to be sophisticated, but it has to have certain elements that will help it translate into an instrumental format. And one as limited as this. From an orchestration point of view, we just don't have a lot to work with here. I mean, it's 3 instruments.
Sure. But you fill up that sonic space very well. I mean, your voicings and the phrasings that you guys...
That's all working the arrangement, though. That's why it takes years for us to develop material, you know?
Years.
Well, I mean...
Years. It doesn't... Wow. You know, I mean...
There's some songs that we play that... I don't know. I mean, I can't think of a single song that we played that we played for less than 6 months that we really feel like we have a grasp on. There's material that we've worked on for, you know, half of a decade, and we still make changes to the arrangement.
Yeah, the flip side of that is there are songs that we've done in shows having never discussed playing them until the moment that we started playing them in a show. And that's always fun. I think we played Ziggy Stardust the day that David Bowie died.
Yeah. But the nice thing with John is he's our age. He grew up in the same time and listening to a lot of the same stuff. So, you know, we can pull these songs out from when we were kids that like maybe we haven't played in 20 years.
Right.
And he's on it, you know?
Yeah.
He's right there with us. So.
And I really dig his feel. You know, you tell him he has a new fan. I used to call myself a drummer, but now I just play drums, and sometimes the drums play me. You know, that guy is absolutely dynamite. He is on point. How long have you been together as a trio then?
It's December now, right? Which means
so
just
maybe
about exactly
4
4 years.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Which is probably the longest time we've worked with any single drummer ever.
Is that right? Why is that? You got something to say about drummers? I mean, no. Next question.
I think it's more what they've got. It's more what they've got to say about us, I think.
Well, you know, here's a funny story about Steely Dan. You knew that the musicians were just afraid to audition for them because Walter and you know Donald were just like, we need it like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that if you didn't fit that, I don't care how bad you were or how many chops you had, this is the sound. So you guys may be the same way. I don't know. I'm not going to audition.
There's specific design objectives with the trio.
And he fits that to a T, I'm sure.
You know, he was able to adapt to it. Most players don't really want to do that. And you know, I'll go back to the space that we're sitting in here. Part of our recording process is the only things that are connected to electricity in the room when we're recording are the recorders, the mic preamp, and a couple light bulbs. There's no headphones, there's no monitoring, there's no speakers, no instruments are plugged into the wall. There's no electricity as far as that.
There's no reverb.
Yeah.
No reverb, it's just the room.
Right.
And so he has to play drums, you know, over here with the tail end of the Steinway that way, and Joff's bass here, and Joff's bass isn't plugged in. So, I mean, if he whacks a snare drum too hard, he doesn't hear what else is going on. Now, doesn't mean that he can't come up and play aggressively, because he often does, but he has to do it in a way where he's not stomping on anything else, and it's a high skill level, and he's really good at it.
You guys sound great, I gotta tell you. Now, may I ask, what age were you when you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that music was it, that this is where we are?
That was never even a thought process.
From the earliest.
Well, it's always just, you know, it's what you do, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I was 3 when I started playing. So, I mean, it was just never even
A consideration.
It was never even a discussion. Nobody ever said, well, maybe you shouldn't do that or whatever. You know, it was just.
So what about your parents then, when they discovered that the talent was there and they just honed in on it and, you know, supported it? There's some musicians that tell the story of, you got to get a real job, but you guys never had to deal with that, right?
Getting a real job?
I mean, from a parental perspective, where I am in Northeast Ohio, it was all about work and you do the music on the side.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like that. I mean, we grew up in Princeton, and there was a lot of resource for as far as education was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
When I was born, my parents bought this little ranch house outside of Princeton. Little ranch house. And my mom wanted a piano, but it wasn't very, you know, the house wasn't big enough to support something like this beast over here.
Uh-huh.
And they had been listening to a lot of Baroque music and harpsichord records and E-powered Bigs and Gustav Leonhardt records and stuff like that when my mother was pregnant with me. And in the next town over, Hopewell, was this renowned harpsichord builder, Chris Bannister. And so my parents, being a little eclectic, commissioned an instrument, and it showed up when I was 3.
Wow.
And my father played a little bit. You know, he had piano chops, and my grandmother was actually a pretty good pianist. I grew up playing duets with her till she was well in her 90s, actually.
Wow.
And he was playing a Scarlatti piece over and over and over again. And one day he was sitting down playing the Scarlatti piece, and he gets up and goes to the other room and watches TV, and he hears part of the Scarlatti piece coming from the harpsichord. And I had figured out, this kind of, whatever thing.
Right.
And so he thought, well, let me do something about this. And he had an aerospace engineering consulting company in Princeton at the time. And they had need for somebody to program the computer. The thing is, it was the 70s. There was no such thing as a computer science major. But IBM had commissioned a study to try to figure out who had the aptitude to understand code, how to read and write, write code. And it turned out that overwhelmingly musicians had a handle on this better than anybody else.
Wow.
And so my father hired a guy who was a grad student in organ and harpsichord at Westminster Choir College, which was in town, to program the computer. And he went to him and said, I'll tell you what, you're in grad school, so I know you're starving to death. If you teach my kid twice a week, I'll feed you all you can eat.
Wow.
And so I started taking lessons with him twice a week.
Wow.
I was about 4 at that point. I had gone through the neighborhood piano teacher kid before that, but that didn't last very long. And so from then on, the house was sort of music education centric. We both studied at Westminster Choir College Conservatory and had serious teachers, and we grew up singing in the choir in town. That was a very serious choir in Episcopal Church.
Wow.
Royal School Church music thing. So we were each head chorister, at respective times.
Yeah.
And then wound up studying with Laurie Altman. He was a jazz composer, pianist. It's not really just jazz; he's just sort of a composer.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, there were tremendous resources in Princeton to deal with anybody who thought they wanted a career in this, and we were just driven around every day and thrown into this, that, or the other thing to.
So give me some clarification then, as this this education is going on and you're getting this broad experience in music, then how does that electronics kind of tie into that? Where did that fit? That
didn't come until a lot later, until we got into sort of more like vintage instruments, Wurlitzers, Rhodes, that sort of thing, and getting into production, music production. We're making records for other people.
Now, how old were you then at that, at that
like early 20s?
Well, I actually, the music production thing started before that.
Yeah, you're right, because
I got kicked out of high school, and then and then for what would have been my senior year, I went to a program in New York City for audio engineering production. And so we got into the, hanging a microphone, recording things.
Yeah.
About then. The electronics thing just was.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's sort of out of necessity of getting into some older equipment that would break.
Like everything along this wall over here, I don't think you can see it, but there's a a Moog synthesizer and another analog thing there, and a couple electric pianos, and there's a Hammond over there on the other side, and every third time you turn them on, there's something wrong. So
I see. So now, with respect to music, and you can see me crisscrossing back and forth, but with respect to music, then the Hammond and the Moog and all of that. Do you intend to at some point incorporate some of those electronics into your music, or
well, we've done that. We had a group called Collective Acoustics. I should say we have a group called Collective Acoustics, because we're actually still doing work with them. And we did a few records that were could almost consider to be kind of electronic records, except that it was all live playing. And so, yeah, it was all electric pianos and synthesizers and even some drum machine stuff. And
wow. Well, tell me what's next then for Hazelrigg Brothers, because you've got songs we like, you got the EP, you got some fascinating stuff on YouTube. You know, the live stuff is brilliant. You know, what's the next step?
Well, we're in the middle of recording our next one right now, actually. We're about halfway through it.
Got a title?
Yeah, but we probably don't.
We shouldn't disclose that because it'll give the whole thing away.
It's too much information.
It's a big, it's a concept record.
All right.
Yeah, based on somebody else's work. And
yeah, we've spent a lot of the fall too, sort of, you know, we see the electronics thing and the music thing it's all the same to us. Like everything we do, it's all sort of toward a single goal of really getting good recordings out and sort of establishing ourselves as artists. But we've been doing a lot of talks this fall about our recording philosophy, and it just wraps in the, you know, how we record, what we record with. We do a live demonstration with our own, you know, with our group playing to show how we get what we're getting. So it's, you know, so we're always working. It's not just like, oh, here's our next record. Now here's our next record. You know, it's like we're working on this record. Oh, and also we've got a couple artists that we're working with on the side to get
we're producing a bunch of EPs right now, actually. A couple different singers and a guitar player, among other things, right? And we do sessions. I mean, we do sessions for other people, and they roll in and we work with them.
It's a wonderful life, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
It's a wonderful life, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's busy. Yeah.
But you guys seem to take it all in stride. Now, what advice would you give the younger Hazelrigg brothers coming up who are like 13 and 14 years old? What would you say to them?
Marry into money. I don't know.
You know, you gotta study as much music as you can. And you can't take anything at face value because somebody told you that's how it was. I think that a unique advantage that we have, I mean, in the short term, it was more of a disadvantage because we were very scattered and not very focused on, you know, single point of where we were going. But it's all starting to pay off now that we studied so many different things. I mean, we studied early music, we studied choral music, we studied jazz, we've done scores of rock records, and Joff toured with, you know, with a major label rock artist for a while. He did the opening date of a tour for Brian Ferry once. You know, I played a lot of contemporary jazz and played with the Granger Brothers and you know, a bunch of singers and
then you've got a harpsichord record.
Yeah, well, Joff engineered a harpsichord record that I did with Gavin Black.
Wow.
The harpsichords.
So it seems like it's all over the place. We're studying Baroque, we're studying modern, we're doing rock, we're doing jazz. But sort of at the end of the day, it's all it's all the same thing. It's all music, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And not being pigeonholed into one way of thinking.
Absolutely.
About thing is really, it's a luxury. We've been doing the Sunday night jazz jam session in Doylestown a lot recently, playing in the house band, and I don't really think we practiced playing any kind of straight ahead stuff in a while, but it always feels fresh going into that. Like I can just come up with completely different ideas all the time and just see what works and what doesn't, but never having to think like, oh, well, I'm a straight ahead jazz player, this is what I need to do.
Sure.
Right, or that's just the single language that we speak in music, you know, straight ahead jazz.
Right, because you don't. And even though you may be doing a jazz cut, all of those influences are just flowing through you. You know, I can tell you, I can hear it when I listen to your music. Because I asked the question before, I said, you know, who takes the lead in picking out the songs that you do? What do you most agree on? But I want to ask the question backwards this time and say, what do you disagree on as brothers? Good way to start.
Is that, well?
Yeah, I don't know.
We're generally on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, we mentioned last time how the songs take shape and the arrangements, you know, we spend a lot of time really, it's like a research project, you know what I mean? You get inside the music, you get inside whatever it is we're doing, and we want to figure out, even if it's like the electronic thing is the same, it's like figuring out the best way to get from where we're at to the ultimate final product, you know?
That's really interesting because I've watched a lot of interviews with other famous brothers, of course, the Brothers Johnsons, the Allman Brothers Band, the Kinks, you know what I mean? And they kind of, because of the music, I don't know what it is, that gene really connects them. They have fewer arguments or disagreements or fights. But, you know, I figured I would start with that question because if there was something that like, well, you know, I don't like this or, you know, or he really gets on my nerves when, but you guys have the default question now.
Yeah, it's never really about the artistic direction so much as, I mean, it's kind of like what Joff was saying about you delve into this stuff and try to figure out, well, all right, how are we going to MacGyver our way out of here with a three-way light bulb and a stick of chewing gum, you know?
Yeah.
And the only time that it really kind of gets heated is when things just aren't working technically. When I say,
but you're not heated at each other. You're just heated because the process is not going.
I mean, it escalates about twice a year or something like that. I don't know, or you know, but I burnt myself with a soldering iron, and now I'm in a bad mood. And, but it really, I would say that's where the real tension comes from, is when we're trying to execute an idea and it's not working because I don't know how to play it that way. So which means either one of two things. I either have to learn how to play that way, or we've got to change what we're doing so that I don't have to play that way. And I think that works the same for you probably too.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing too that I think is worth mentioning is having John in our group, having someone who's capable and willing to listen and willing to go with the ideas that were thrown at him. That makes for a much smoother operation too. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like when you're trying to get to a common place and somebody on the team is like, no, man, I want to go over there. Right. And like, tell you what, Go over there. We'll see you later.
Now, how much does John, and we're talking, so the audience would know, we're talking about John O'Reilly Jr., who's the incredible drummer for the Hazelrigg Brothers. Now, how much of a contribution beyond his talent does he bring to the arrangement? Does he bring to the writing process?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point he brings a lot. Initially, when he started playing with us, we already had a lot of the material established and a sound and a direction. So it was like defining the guidelines that he had to fit within. You know, we expect you to do this. We expect you not to do this. And, you know, I always compare it to sort of, we've got our own dialect, and he had to pick up.
Learn the language.
Yeah, exactly. Learn the language. And now that he speaks it, it's like, all right, we're going to play this song. It's going to be this tempo. And we're thinking sort of a feel like this. Go. And, you know, 90% of the time, he's right in the same mindset that we're at, where he's right there with us.
Yeah, and when he's not, I'll say, hey, John, you know, you think can we try to do something kind of like this? And he'll say, no. And then he'll do it, like, perfect.
Oh man, I'd love to meet him one day. I really think he really is the glue to the sound that you guys put together. I mean, you guys fit like this, and
he was perfect right off the bat. It was, you know, 4 years ago now. We one cold December, we had a gig on Saturday night, and it was Tuesday night, and we had rehearsal with his predecessor, who got up and walked out.
Not during the gig.
During rehearsal.
Oh, during the rehearsal.
No, but gotcha. We've had that happen too.
Okay. All right. Understood.
And I think he just hit his frustration point. Actually, I think this guy had just, he felt like, well, to hell with this. What his comment was, why do you guys always have to try to make things better?
That's a quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you have to try to make things better?
So
I have no comment. I'm just speechless.
That was Tuesday morning. We called 3 guys to try to get Saturday covered. And John was the first guy to call back. And he learned the entire repertoire by that Saturday and nailed it. It was like the best gig we had done to date.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was pretty clear that was going to work.
That's fantastic. So now, did you guys just put out the call, or had either of you played with John prior to?
We had. I don't think we'd ever met face to face. We had some acquaintances.
I think we met him at the jam session. There's this Sunday night jam session that happens in Doylestown every week.
I see. And
we're often either in the house band or just hanging out, you know, having gin martini.
Yeah.
Chilling out.
Now, in our last conversation together, George said he started playing when he was 3 years old. But you know, what happened with you, Joff? Did that? I don't know how much younger you are than your brother, but what age did you start?
I'm 4 years younger. I started playing violin probably around 6 or 7. And played a bunch of other instruments along the way to bass. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like my brother mentioned, we both sang in the choir. Mm-hmm. That was really a big thing, you know, because developing our ear really is such a huge thing, a huge part of being a musician. You know, sure. So many pro musicians. Hey man, how does that go? It goes like this. I don't know. Can you write that down? Or it's like, can't you hear this stuff?
Sure.
You guys are supposed to be professional musicians and you can't hear anything?
Yeah, singing is how you learn how to do that stuff.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I really think the discipline of being in a choir where you're forced to listen to the entire spectrum, you're forced to pay attention to what the director or directress is doing, you know, it really does discipline.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to function as a part of an ensemble, you know, and I think that's another part of the philosophy in our group is that, you know, you see so many groups nowadays, it's like, oh, superstar number 1 and superstar number 2 got together with superstar number 3, and now they've got a band and they put out an album, and then like the guy over here wants to tour it, but he can't get the other 2 guys because they're 2 big stars and they're too busy. And then if you go and you see them live anyway, it's like they're all 3 playing their own individual solos, you know what I mean?
At the same time.
Yeah, right. And it's not like an ensemble.
Sure.
You know, it's not like the parts are great or, together. So
it's interesting that you say that, because I was talking with a bunch of friends the other day about some of the worst albums that we had listened to. And there's this one I won't mention because I love each one of these musicians individually. These 3 superstar bass players, if you have ears, then you know who I'm talking about.
I've heard the album too, and I know.
You go, okay, so we'll move on, right? It's amazing because you think, you know, you're going to the store or ordering it from Amazon and you're expecting this, and you go, what happened? You had 12 songs and not one of them.
It's like product for the sake of product. You know what I mean?
We'll move on.
We'll move on.
As far as you guys are concerned, jazz seems to be kind of like the central thing that you're known for. We talked last time about, you know, growing up and listening to all these wonderful influences that were just on the radio and everywhere. So you have that download. But do you have, either of you or together, a favorite style of music that you kind of default to when you're down, when you're in your car, when you're not on the way to a gig, when you're not thinking about working? Do you have a favorite style?
I listen to my engine when I'm driving.
Understood. You just want that quiet, huh?
Oh, it's not quiet.
No.
Joff, you have a favorite?
No, I've got a couple CDs that make their way through my CD changer in my car, but nothing specific.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the other thing I feel like I should mention too is that, you know, how other musicians see us, I think totally depends on where we are geographically. Because I mean, Philadelphia is a jazz town in a very traditional swinging jazz kind of way. I don't see it as a jazz town in a modern jazz kind of way, because I don't think they accept there's some pretty heavy modern jazz guys in our region, and they don't sort of get the same acceptance in the Philadelphia jazz scene. I don't know that we fit into the Philadelphia jazz scene in the traditional kind of way. Huh. But I can also tell you that, like, you know, so I always thought a lot of people consider us more like rock guys, you know. But I think when we lived in the DC area, which we lived there for a long time, the guys there really considered us like
straight ahead players.
Yeah, like heavy jazz guys.
We were sort of thought of, and I'm not sure that would be the case anymore, but because that was an urban jazz scene. I mean, that was like DC, the home of go-go and some of the best musicians in the country, man.
Sure. And absolutely.
And that was that sort of thing. So if I'm playing like anything that sounds like a bebop line, they're like, oh yeah, he's just a straight ahead player.
Well, you guys have played with Dennis Chambers, who's one of the hardest funking drummers that there are out there. Chester Thompson. I mean, so you've gotten your feet wet with a lot of different drummers, a lot of different beats, rhythms, and styles. And you know, again, look, I'm saying go out and get songs we like if you haven't heard it, because you're going to hear this potpourri of beautiful influences that your approach is dynamic. I'm trying not to flower you up too much, guys, but I really do dig your work. And we talked about your dad. a little bit in the last segment that we did. But your mom, was she musical, or is she musical? You talked about your grandmother being able to play duets.
Played a little bit. I mean, she was, I guess, she was musically literate to a degree.
Yeah, I don't think she ever played anything seriously though.
No, but she had piano chops.
Yeah.
She didn't
Exercise.
She didn't break that stuff out very often.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know.
really?
Actually, I remember being pretty surprised one day when I watched her reading through something on piano. Do that.
So is there any Hazelrigg sisters?
No, it's just us.
That's very cool. Now, we talked a little bit before, and Geoff was kind enough to show us one of your incredible preamps. With respect to Hazelrigg Industries, is preamps all you manufacture, or is there other modes of electronics that you get into as well?
Well, Hazelrigg Industries started as a deal where we licensed circuit designs from Doug Fern.
I see.
In order for us to launch kind of a lower line, a more affordable line of products for him. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure it's turned out to be exactly that. I mean, there are aspects to these things that the preamp that we make that's less expensive, but it's really pretty much just packaging. And probably the profit margin is even more narrow than our regular stuff, which is already, minuscule. This is an aspect of our gear, right? Because it's just so extraordinarily expensive. Mm-hmm. And people say, oh, you guys, it's so much money, but it's like, actually, if you break it down to what's in the box and what it costs to put it together and what we've had to go through to do it, actually, you're getting a pretty high percentage of money worth, just in terms of parts that go into this stuff. So, after manufacturing that stuff for a year, Doug said, I don't want to do this dealing with dealers and customer service and manufacturers, vendors all the time anymore. Why don't you guys just, here's the company, run this. So we took it over. He still does design with us, and also produces records with us. Doug is the most brilliant audio engineer I have ever met by a long shot. And that's saying a lot, because we've known some really brilliant audio engineers, and he's just expanded our years and
yeah, I mean, he really shaped the way that we made songs we like.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So he's a part of that team that helps you get your. Now, does he go out live with you guys, or do you have a problem with? I don't want to say a problem, but do you find it odd, the different venues that you perform in, from the sound guy to the next sound guy?
Our whole thing is pretty simple. So it's self-explanatory. So we don't have particularly bad luck with that.
That's good. That's good. Because I mean, you are perfectionist in the fact that you want the sound that you want. Was there ever a situation where you had like the worst gig ever?
We had a worst gig ever?
I mean, nothing comes to mind.
Not with the trio. I mean, look, we've had some pretty bad gigs in our careers.
Well, let me ask you this question, Dan. While you have that filtering on, you've worked as producers, you've worked as session guys, you've toured with other artists. As far as the Hazelrigg Brothers as recording artists, what has been your most valuable lesson as far as the music industry or the music business is concerned?
Not to listen to anybody's opinion about what it is that we should be doing.
Excellent.
I mean, I've even had friends who, whose opinions I value, say recently, oh, well, have you guys thought about doing this? Or have you guys thought about doing that? I mean, that happened twice this week. Yes, I've thought about it, and secondly, no. This is what we're doing. And it's funny, you know, we haven't gotten to this point yet, but I suspect we will. Or at least I hope we will. Or at least we bet the farm, so we better. And that is, I think people, when they get where they're going, the people who talk about them, you know, being successful people say, oh, well, you know, they stuck to their guns, they believed in what they were doing, you know, they didn't follow a crowd, they didn't conform to what the record company wanted or whatever, and in the end it paid off. The problem is, until it pays off, nobody believes you.
That's true.
But
that's true.
You can't fake stuff. I mean, you can't fake it in any industry, but you get into the arts, you can't just jump into something and do it because you think that that's going to be profitable.
Exactly.
That just doesn't work.
That's good.
You know what I mean? If you want to be a smooth jazz saxophone player, you better really like doing that.
Right.
You know, you can't be some straight ahead guy who wants to make money.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
We've heard it many times on radio too, you know, where it's like, I don't hear any heart in that.
Right. It's not, yeah, things that aren't genuine.
It's the same 7 chords as the last record.
Mm-hmm.
I can,
you know, and things that are fashionable are exactly that. They come and they go, and you know, somebody can be considered a genius this year, and 5 years down the line, you know, not so much. I mean, and then again later.
Sure.
I mean, I was completely appalled when this whole thing came out, when somebody called for Phil Collins to retire, like, it's time for you to retire. And I'm like, what part of the cycle are we possibly in that you would even suggest something like that about somebody who's, you know, just a monumental genius, you know?
Yeah.
And contributed so much for so long in the business that, well, okay, well, there it was. It hit a lull in the cycle, and you know, I mean, God knows what that guy's going to do in the future. He's got a lot of years left of being able to produce great things.
I didn't hear that comment. I'm appalled by it. I didn't hear that.
Yeah. Actually,
Wow.
John O'Reilly was talking about, he'd read Phil's autobiography, and he mentioned that and how he had become depressed over that. I mean, this guy was a teenager when they were doing timeless records.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Genesis really set the standard. Oh my God. Let's not even, I mean, I don't even know if we want to go down when we talk about innovation and approach and just what you can do with a song. To me, Genesis, and I'm a kid, man, listening to this stuff, it's like taking a sponge and squeezing every ounce of life you can out of it. I mean, I don't know who said it. I don't want to know. I won't read the article, but that's terrible because he is absolutely.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I just watched there's maybe an hour-long documentary on him, on Phil, for what was his solo record? It's something like a face value or whatever. It was the studio thing, all that. Yeah, his big hit solo record from
that time period, from the 80s.
No, it was the other. It was the other one, the one with his face on it, which was great because every third scene is Chester Thompson. You know, when he's whatever in his 20s, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, playing in the background. You know,
wow.
He was Phil's right-hand guy, you know, for as far as drums were concerned.
Amazing. Yeah. When they were doing the double thing. Yeah. It's good. Excellent stuff. I think he adopted that from the Earth, Wind & Fire, because at the same time he was using Earth, Wind & Fire horns and whatnot.
Right, yeah.
You know? So when Earth, Wind & Fire had the double drummer, he took that Chester Thompson concept. And I think he did really good. I know that when I saw them on that tour, that you know, Chester would be like funking it up. But when Phil sat down on the kit, that mix just went like, oh, you knew Phil Collins was now behind the kit, man. It was a great show.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, here's where I want to ask, because I don't want the 30 minutes to get away from us, but what question did you wish I asked? Like, this Jerry is just not with it today. Like, I wish he would ask me this, and you want to say this about the Hazelrigg Brothers, or about what's next for you guys, or whatever it is. There was a question you thought I should ask and I haven't asked it.
I don't know. I've been interjecting my own ideas in there all along.
That's good. That makes for a great conversation. Well, then let me ask you this then. Because the last time we were together, we were talking about a concept album that you were working on. Didn't want to give away the title, and absolutely respect it. But is there something about this project that you can tell me that either intrigues you, or, you know, is there something we can expect?
We're covering an entire record, a significant one, front to back.
Excellent.
A well-known record. And it's challenging. And it's, you know, it's a rock band. And you wouldn't think, okay, well, I mean, you think in terms of serious music, like, okay, this is classical work, this is very difficult. I'm playing Rachmaninoff, this is very difficult. I'm working with, I'm, you know, trying to play Thelonious Monk or I don't know, something technically difficult in jazz. You don't think of, oh, well, this is this rock band, this is technically difficult music. But there's one arrangement that we worked on for 6 years, and it took until the week before we cut it for me to be able to play it.
That's excellent.
Work it out and get to the point where I thought, oh, there it is. I played it.
That's excellent. Now you have me really, really curious.
And it doesn't sound that difficult. It doesn't come off like some, you know, technical monster or anything. It's just how it turned out.
Do you have a release date for it?
No. We're not exactly sure what we're going to do with this one, because this one's really special. And we have an artist friend who's an amazing artist in Princeton, who's doing the cover for us. And we're probably going to reach out to these guys to sort of see if they like it and if they've got ideas about how we should move forward with it. We haven't, at this stage, what we want to do is just get it done to the point that we're happy with it.
Understood.
Yeah.
Any future endeavor for a live album at some point? I told you that I saw a lot of live stuff on YouTube, which was just really intriguing. You plan on capturing that for a project?
I think that'd be really fun. You know, again, it's sort of finding the venue that would work for us, though. You know, even like a big stage or something, sometimes it's too big. I don't know. I think that'd be a fun challenge, you know.
Yeah. We did a recording / recital in a beautiful studio in outside of DC, Tonal Park, which is owned and operated by Charlie Pilzer, who's a good friend of ours and mastering engineer extraordinaire, well-known guy. I mean, he's got Grammys for doing that kind of work. And we did a little concert in his studio back in the spring, and there are a couple of videos of that on up online. If you search for us on YouTube or whatever. And we talked about carving out, recording out of that. Yeah, I mean, what you're describing is actually kind of a potentially an impromptu situation, because we can grab what's sitting in this room and be able to go pull off something like that from an engineering standpoint.
Sure.
So I don't know. Actually, that's a great idea. We'll think more about that.
And one last thing is, I mentioned before, because you guys are so much into electronics and have worked on electronic instruments with another band, but is there any future projects where the Hazelrigg Brothers, that trio, will embrace some electronics? It's like the first time that Chick Corea came out with the Fender Rhodes.
We've talked about it, and in fact, it's come up in discussion even recently. And so I would say, yeah, probably.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple things about it. I mean, Joff started out as an electric bass player. I mean, he went to school at UArts and studied under Gerald Veasley, and before that, his mentor was Reggie Washington, and who's an amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, how long have you been playing upright?
I mean, seriously playing upright, maybe 8 years or so.
For me, like if I play Hammond, I am not a jazz organist. I'm not a jazz organist. I do a lot of sessions as sort of a rock or pop organ player, and that I can do. But
you're your own worst critic, though. I would think that, somewhere down the road, after you've done this project, this concept album, and you've done the live thing, and you guys pick up electric just because you want to do it, I think something absolutely fantastic would come out of it. I mean, again, in winding this conversation up, because 30 minutes, what can you say? It's amazing, but here's the thing that I want to leave for everyone who watches this conversation. First of all, go back and watch the first. Secondly, go to hazelriggbrothers.com and learn more about these incredible musicians. I am a huge fan of innovation. I'm going to continue to repeat that, but you guys, really, your approach is one that, you think you've heard it all. You really do. And you get on the show with Trish Hennessy, who's interviewing the Hazelrigg Brothers, and wait a minute, I haven't heard it all. Because here are some songs that I too like, and here's an incredible approach. So I can't say enough about your artistry. I can't say enough about the sounds that I hear coming out of my speakers, and you have the handle on it. And I know you're going to be a household name one day. You've paid your dues, you've done your thing, and there's much more that I know the Lord has in store for you guys. I just know it.
Well, thanks, Jerry. That means a lot coming from you, because you're quite the artist in your own right, for sure.
I'm no John O'Reilly Jr. Well, peace and blessings to you guys. Peace and blessings to you. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Jerry B. That's Geoff to the left. By the bass that you see over there, and the elder brother, George, is to the right at the piano. They are absolutely remarkable. It's been fun. Thank you so much for the second opportunity to have a conversation with you. We are EntreMusicians, and so are you. We'll see you again soon. And as I always say, I know I'm right here. I know that you enjoyed that conversation with George and Joff, real brothers, the Hazelrigg Brothers, who are still jamming. And, I'm going to contact them at some point for an upgrade. We need a 2.0 or something like that. But I can tell you, I really enjoyed finding out more about them. And, I hope that we set a proper foundation for you as you visit their site and learn more about their music as well. And while you're in discovery mode, why don't you come on over to theentremusician.com, learn more about who we are and what we do here, and growing our community and building trust and real collaboration. It's an organic process that is growing and getting stronger. I'm having a lot of fun. Other entre musicians, obviously, meeting each other, having a lot of fun, doing some real projects together. So it's an area of growth. We would love to have you join us. Just come on over to theentremusician.com and do so today. My name is Jerry B. I am the entre musician, but wait a minute. Hold on. That's not what's most important. What's really important is so are you. And we will see you again next time. Peace and blessings to you. We'll talk soon.